My name is Julianne Carter, and I'm 32. The night my boyfriend told me, I'm getting a vasectomy. I don't want kids. Ever. Something quiet inside me stood up, put on its coat, and left the part of me that still believed in compromise. Aaron and I had been together for 4 years, engaged for 6 months. I'm the kind of person who plans things down to the decimal: vacations, investments, even how many steps from the bed to the coffee maker. My entire life was a series of carefully placed pins on a map we were supposed to fill together. I thought we shared that love of planning. Apparently, I was wrong. That night, we were having dinner, takeout from the Thai place we both liked, candles half burned down from the last date night we never got around to repeating. He set his fork down, his tone business casual. I have made an appointment, he said. For what? I asked, barely looking up from the rice. My vasectomy. Next month. I just realized I'm not the fatherhood type. For a second, I thought he was joking. I even smiled, waiting for the punchline. It never came. The silence that followed felt heavier than the room itself. The air changed shape. I remember staring at him, the man who once promised me a backyard swing set and a future full of little hands smudging our walls with fingerprints. I'd spent weekends measuring the spare room, imagining it painted soft yellow. I'd already bookmarked cribs and nightlights. He took a sip of water. I know it's sudden, but you'll understand, right? It's my body. Your body, I echoed. My voice didn't tremble. Your choice. He looked relieved, as if he'd dodged an argument. I even smiled, one of those automatic, polite smiles women are trained to give while their world collapses quietly behind their ribs. We finished dinner. We watched half of a show I couldn't name if you paid me. When he fell asleep, I sat on the floor of that half-painted spare room and stared at the pale patch on the wall where I'd taped our future family vision board. 2 names, one for a boy, one for a girl, both circled in red. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I made a list. Call lawyer. Separate accounts. Pack essentials. I've always been efficient, even in grief. The next morning, while he was at the gym, I called an attorney my coworker recommended, one who specializes in uncomplicated separations. I explained, in measured words, that I wanted to dissolve an engagement. The woman on the other end had the kind of voice that's seen this before. When did he tell you? She asked. Last night, I said. She paused. You sound calm. I am, I lied. After the call, I logged into our joint account and transferred my half, mostly my inheritance, into my own. My hands didn't shake. They should have. Then I walked into the spare room one last time. The smell of paint still clung to the walls. I took the folded world map from where it hung, a massive, custom-made piece we'd bought years ago. Each pin represented a place we'd take our kids someday. I pulled them all out, one by one, until the map looked like it was bleeding tiny holes. When he came home later, I was sitting on the sofa, a neat folder in my lap. What's that? He asked, towel draped around his neck. Paperwork, I said. I talked to a lawyer. He blinked. You're serious? Over this? You're serious, I said quietly. You ended the plan. He dropped the towel. You're overreacting. People change their minds. I stood. You changed yours. I'm just catching up. His expression hardened, the kind men get when they realize their control isn't being renewed for another term. Julianne, this is insane. We have a great life. No, I said. You have the life you want. I was building one you secretly planned to erase. He stared at me, trying to find the woman who always forgave him. She wasn't there. Your body, your choice, I said again, my tone flat. My heart, my decision. I left the folder on the table, picked up my suitcase, and walked out. The morning air was cold enough to sting. My car smelled faintly of lavender and new beginnings. As I turned the key, the sunrise caught the edge of the map lying on the passenger seat, creased and heavy, like a relic of a world that never existed. I whispered to no one, plans change. And for the first time in years, I didn't have one. Part 2. The Other Brother. Aaron called at 7:12 a.m., the hour that makes everything sound more honest or more cruel. So we're done. Over a procedure? He asked, pacing his kitchen. I could hear the scrape of the chair he always dragged with one leg. Not over a procedure, I said. Over a promise you buried. He pivoted into strategy like it was a negotiation. We have a house, Julianne. We just closed 3 months ago. You can't just nuke this because you're emotional. I'm not nuking anything, I said. You already did. I'm documenting the fallout. By noon, his parents were on the field. Adrian's voice came through first, polished and paternal. You're being rash. People change their minds. Aaron is allowed to. So am I said. Then Lena, clipped and gracious the way knives are shiny. Julianne, sweetheart, don't throw away a good life for a hypothetical. I stared at the half-painted room in my new place. 4 walls, no crib, no tiny socks, nothing hypothetical about the echo. I'm not throwing away a life. I'm leaving the one he set on fire. The only call that didn't feel like PR came that evening. Julianne, it's Micah. His voice had a grain to it, warm and uncertain. 27, the younger brother who never spoke much at holidays, the one who used to photograph everyone else instead of being in the picture. I'm sorry, he said, for how he told you, for all of it. I waited for the family script. It didn't come. I told him to talk to you months ago, Micah went on. He said he would. He didn't. That's on him. A beat. Can I bring you coffee tomorrow? No lecture, just coffee. The next day, we sat in a quiet corner of a cafe that smelled like toast and new paper. Micah wore a denim jacket with a tear at the elbow and kept tucking one curl behind his ear like it didn't want to agree with him. He asked about work. I asked about his. Product photographer, mostly. He gestured with his hands when he talked about light, how it decides what a thing really looks like. You built that wooden cabinet, right? He asked. The one with a secret base? I blinked. How do you know about that? He grinned, a little embarrassed. You posted a progress shot once. Dovetail joints? Everyone in my feed was just impressed. I was too. It was the first time in days I didn't feel like a defendant. We talked for 2 hours, the kind that passed like a clean breeze in a sealed room. When he stood to leave, he said, If my family calls you again, tell me. I'll handle it. You don't have to be in the middle, I said. He shrugged. I've been in the middle my whole life. Might as well do something useful with it. Aaron found out before I got home. Social media has a way of shrinking air. He texted. So this was your angle? Seduce my brother to make a point? I stared at the words until they stopped meaning anything. Then I forwarded the message to my attorney, who drafted a tidy cease and desist for harassment and defamation. Strategy meets strategy. I learned that from him. By the weekend, the house turned from noun to battlefield. The purchase had been 60-40 in his favor. The down payment was equal parts my savings and my inheritance. He wanted the cabinet. Of course he did. We'll list assets, his lawyer said on a call that felt like a dental procedure. Julianne took a bespoke wooden chest from the living room. Cabinet, I corrected. I built it 2 years before I met Aaron. Then we'll need proof. I already had photos of the lumber receipt, dated and obnoxiously photographed like an evidence exhibit, plus time-lapse videos of the build in my old apartment garage. When I'm proud of something, I document it. When I'm in love, I document more. I guess I was always building a case for a future I didn't know I'd have to prosecute. Aaron tried a different angle that night. Let's talk like adults, he said. Voice sanded smooth. You can keep your cabinet. We'll sell the house, split proceeds proportional to equity. And, Julianne, let's not embarrass each other. It was the embarrass that got me. You mean let's not tell anyone you lied to me for a year? He exhaled. Lie is a strong word. Deception's stronger, I said. So is fraud if we're picking nouns. He went quiet. You really want to be enemies? No, I said. I want to be done. The next week moved like a train through fog, loud, inevitable, disorienting, listing photos, addendum drafts, escrow calendars. The practicalities of ending a life are so tidy, they're obscene. I signed papers across a glossy conference table and watched a paralegal slip my copy into a paper folder, as if you could file grief alphabetically. Micah kept showing up at the edges where the silence frayed. He sent a photo of sunrise over the pedestrian bridge, captioned, Proof mornings still work. He dropped off a bag of oranges with a note that said, Vitamin C is cheaper than a therapist, but more sticky. I found myself laughing alone in my kitchen. It sounded unfamiliar. I let it. Then the blowback began. Lena posted a family photo on Facebook. Everyone in red at some event I didn't attend. The caption wasn't subtle. Some women don't understand commitment. I was tagged in a comment by a cousin I'd never met. Isn't this about the baby thing? So sad. My phone lit up with micro-judgments, a swarm of strangers auditing my uterus like it was a public amenity. I sent the screenshots to my lawyer. She wrote a second letter, sharper. If they want a public conversation, she said, they can have a public lawsuit. I thought of Aaron's favorite phrase, don't escalate. He'd use it when I asked for accountability, as if the act of asking was the violence. Fair, I told my lawyer. Let's de-escalate with consequences. That night, Micah called. Are you okay? He asked. No preamble. Define okay. He was quiet, and in that quiet, I heard all the things he wasn't going to say on behalf of his family. I got a DM from Mom, he admitted. She wants me to stop enabling you. What does enabling me look like exactly? Bringing you oranges, apparently. He huffed a laugh that wasn't amused. She said you're humiliating Aaron. I'm living, I said. Yeah, he replied. That's what I told her. 2 days later, Aaron tried to crater the ground we were standing on. He emailed my boss. Subtle, not overtly defamatory, just oily. He suggested I was struggling emotionally and might benefit from reduced responsibility. He CC'd HR. The subject line was concern for Julianne. We had a meeting at 4 p.m. My manager, a woman who'd clawed her way up 3 departments, closed the door and slid her phone across the desk to show me the email. You're good at your job, she said. Take tomorrow off if you want, for the principle of it. I laughed, a sharp, cracked sound. Principle's expensive. So are lawyers, she said, smiling without humor. Want me to forward this to yours? When the formal notice went out about the house sale, Adrian called again, the way thunder follows lightning. Let's be civil, he said. We can avoid fees if we settle privately. Civility costs the same either way, I said. I checked. Micah texted, Mom and Dad are furious you won the cabinet thing. It was never a thing to win, I wrote back. It's just mine. After a beat, he replied, That's why they're furious. On Friday, I walked into my emptied old living room to meet the stager. The walls had a ghost outline where the map had hung, an atlas-shaped absence. As I stood there, I felt the ridiculous urge to apologize to the room for making it dream with me. Micah arrived with a toolkit and his camera, somehow both prepared and out of place. Here to help patch holes, he said, lifting the bag, and to make the listing photos look like they remember being loved. We worked in quiet coordination. Spackle, sand, wipe, move. He shot wide and low, making the angles generous. Light does half the work, he said. You just have to let it in. I could have cried from the simplicity of that. We were wrapping cables when the front door opened without a knock. Aaron. He stood there with a look I recognized from 100 tiny moments, like he was about to offer me a compromise where I did all the compromising. What is this? He gestured between us. Patching holes, I said, finishing what we started. He glanced at Micah. You're really doing this? With her? Micah didn't flinch. I'm helping someone you hurt. Aaron's laugh was flat. You think she won't hurt you next? Not like you did, Micah said. It wasn't loud, but it landed. Aaron's eyes flicked to my hands, to the cabinet against the wall I'd left for last, my cabinet, polished and strong, the hidden compartment flush and seamless. You're taking that? Yes. Of course you are, he smiled with no teeth. You always liked secrets. I met his gaze. Only the kind that hold heirlooms, not the kind that hold ultimatums. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You've made a scene, Julianne. You could have been gracious. Now everyone knows how vindictive you are. Because I respected your choice, I asked, and made my own? Because you embarrassed me. There it was, the thesis. Then stop giving me material, I said. He left with a door slam that made the patched wall dust sigh onto the floor. I stood there, feeling the tremble ripple through the studs, through the bones of the house, through mine. Micah picked up a broom. I'll sweep, he said softly, like an offering. When the house hit the market, the first showing went well. The second went better. We accepted an offer on Tuesday. Clean, over asking, no contingencies. Numbers have a way of closing arguments humans keep open. On Thursday, Micah called from a studio set. I could hear the white noise of lights warming up. Remember that beverage brand I pitched to? He asked. Got it. Full campaign. That's huge, I said, smiling into the empty room. Yeah, weird thing though. He hesitated. Someone sent the creative director an anonymous email full of lies about me being unreliable. Personal stuff. It read like, family. My stomach went cold. Aaron? Maybe. Or Mom. Or both. He cleared his throat. But the director forwarded it to me with a note. Just so you know what you're dealing with. We'd like to extend the contract instead of shorten it. For the first time in weeks, the laugh that left me wasn't sharp. It was stunned and bright. Light does half the work, I said. Yeah, Micah replied, and sometimes shadows overplay their hand. We hung up. I stood in my new place, hands on the smooth lip of the cabinet. I pressed the hidden latch and felt the base slide open with that soft, secret click. My grandmother's tools lay nested inside, burnished handles catching the late sun. Tools made for carving, for removing what doesn't belong until the truth of the shape appears. My phone buzzed. A string of messages from unknown numbers, some kind, some cruel, all crowded. Another from my lawyer. Cease and desist served. House closing scheduled. You're almost through. And from Micah, a photo of the set, a clean horizon of light, and a caption. Proof the future still works, too. I closed the cabinet and felt the click settle in my chest. Not a finish. A fit. Part 3. Family warfare. 4 months later, the divorce papers had collected their final signatures. The ink dried into silence. What amazed me most wasn't how fast things could fall apart, but how peaceful the wreckage could look once the storm passed. My lawyer called it a clean break. No alimony, no shared assets except for the house, which sold faster than either of us expected. When the money hit my account, I moved into a smaller condo with big windows that overlooked the city lights. It wasn't the dream house we'd bought together, but it was mine. The art cabinet sat against the far wall, freshly polished, its hidden compartment still secret, still safe. Aaron stopped calling weeks ago, replaced by the occasional venom from his parents. They sent polite texts that were really grenades wrapped in etiquette. We hope you find peace. Aaron is devastated. Maybe someday you'll understand how selfish this all looks. I never replied. But Micah, he kept showing up, sometimes with coffee, sometimes with takeout, always with quiet timing that didn't ask anything of me. One Saturday afternoon, he dropped by, carrying a small potted fern. A plant for your new start, he said. I picked one that thrives on neglect. I laughed, a sound I was finally getting used to making again. Perfect, I said. That's exactly my gardening style. He grinned, leaning against the doorframe. How's work? Busy, I said, but stable. Good. He hesitated. You seem lighter. I am. And it was true. The weight of disappointment had turned into something else, a quiet kind of gratitude that I'd escaped before becoming a ghost inside my own plan. We started spending more time together, not on purpose, at least not at first. A movie here, a walk there, long conversations that blurred until the line between healing and something warmer got hard to find. It wasn't about revenge, it was about recognition. Micah didn't treat me like a mistake to be fixed. He treated me like someone who'd survived. When he kissed me for the first time, it wasn't cinematic. No fireworks, no background music, just the hum of the city through my half-open window and his breath trembling like he was afraid of crossing a line he'd drawn himself. I didn't pull away. Are you sure? I whispered. He nodded. I've never been more sure of anything I'm not supposed to be sure about. The next morning, the guilt arrived like clockwork. Not mine, his. My parents, he said. They'll lose it. I know. But I don't care, he added, and I believed him. Still, when Aaron found out, lose it, didn't begin to describe what followed. It started with an email to my lawyer accusing me of psychologically manipulating his brother. Then a Facebook post about some people having no boundaries, vague enough to be deniable, sharp enough to slice. His mother, Lena, shared it within an hour. Adrian commented with a prayer emoji. Micah's phone didn't stop buzzing. His father left 3 voicemails that escalated from, "You're confused," to, "You're dead to me." His mother texted him a single line. "You've disgraced this family for her." Micah showed me the messages, pale-faced but steady. They act like I joined a cult, he said. I took his hand. Let them think what they want. They need a villain. It just can't be you. He smiled faintly. You'd be surprised. They've already decided it's you. I figured, I said. I've been the villain before. It's survivable. Aaron, predictably, tried one more sabotage. He contacted a company Micah freelanced for, a beverage brand that had just hired him for a national campaign, and sent an anonymous email full of accusations. Unprofessional, unreliable, emotionally unstable. The email found its way to the project manager, a woman named Carol in her 50s. Instead of firing Micah, she called him directly. I got an anonymous warning about you, she said, voice dry as sandpaper. Then I looked at your portfolio. I decided to extend your contract. Micah told me later, laughing in disbelief. She said, never trust gossip written in Comic Sans. Aaron's smear campaign collapsed under its own weight. And Micah, God, he thrived. The project became his biggest success yet. His confidence grew, and with it, something in me healed too. We started making plans, the kind that weren't blueprinted or written in spreadsheets. Dinners that ran late, mornings that started slow. The quiet joy of knowing no one was pretending anymore. One evening, he came over with takeout and a small velvet box. My breath caught before he even opened it. Inside wasn't a diamond. It was a tiny brass key. For the cabinet, he said. Your secret compartment. You said it never had one. I blinked, confused. How did you... I built it, he said softly, with you. I didn't say yes or no. I just took the key, turned it in the invisible slot he'd carved, and heard the faint click of something locking perfectly into place. It felt like closure and beginning, both at once. We got married 6 weeks later. Not in a big ceremony, not even with family. Just the two of us on a beach at dusk, a local officiant, and a witness who probably thought we were eloping. We exchanged simple vows, no promises we couldn't keep, no timelines we couldn't control. I remember looking out at the water, thinking, I didn't plan this, and maybe that's why it feels real. We didn't post about it. We didn't tell anyone, not yet. To the world, we were just dating. To us, we were already home. For a while, peace felt possible. Then Christmas came. It started with a phone call from Aaron's grandmother, a formidable matriarch who, apparently, ruled the family like a small, velvet-gloved dictator. Micah, she said, her voice brisk and iron-edged, it's time to end this nonsense. Family doesn't disown family. You and that woman will attend Christmas Eve dinner at my house. I insist. Her word was law. Attendance, as she put it, was not optional. Micah looked at me across the table after the call, his face unreadable. She'll make a scene, he said quietly. Then let her, I replied. We've been quiet long enough. He nodded slowly. So we're really going? Yes. I glanced toward the art cabinet, sunlight sliding across its surface like a promise. We'll bring gifts. He tilted his head. What kind of gifts? The kind that speak for themselves, I said. Part 4. The Christmas Reveal. Christmas Eve came dressed in tension. The drive to Aaron's grandmother's estate felt like crossing a border into enemy territory. The air too still, the lights too perfect, every window glowing like an accusation. Micah's hands stayed on the wheel, tight but steady. I could see the muscle in his jaw flicker when the gates opened automatically. Last chance to turn around, he murmured. I shook my head. No more running from ghosts. Inside, the warmth was staged. Gold lights, a 12-foot tree, the smell of pine and expensive perfume. Conversations dimmed the moment we stepped through the door. Every eye turned toward us. Adrian and Lena were near the fireplace, stiff as statues. Aaron stood beside them, glass of wine in hand, smirk already loaded. His mother's voice was sugar-dipped in acid. So you came. Yes, I said, smiling politely. You invited us. Her mouth tightened. You're not family. Then why send an invitation? Micah asked calmly. Aaron's grandmother appeared from the sitting room. Silver hair, spine straight as a ruler, presence heavy enough to hush the room. Enough, she said. Christmas Eve is not a courtroom. Sit. We did. Dinner unfolded like theater. Small talk in measured doses, forks clinking like punctuation marks. No one mentioned love, marriage, or betrayal. but they didn't need to. It hung in the air like incense. Aaron played the martyr flawlessly, sighing just loud enough, glancing at me with mock nostalgia, as if he were the wronged one in some tragic poem. I let him have his stage. The finale was coming. When the plates cleared and gifts were exchanged, Micah gave me a subtle nod. Showtime. We approached the tree, carrying a small silver-wrapped box tied with a white ribbon. "This is for you," I said to Lena and Adrian, my voice even, from both of us. Lena accepted it reluctantly, her manicure gleaming under the chandelier. She peeled the paper back, expecting guilt wrapped in truce. Inside was a simple silver picture frame, empty except for an engraving across the top. Coming June 2026. The silence that followed was surgical, her brow furrowed. "What is this?" Micah handed her the small card tucked inside the box. She read it aloud before realizing what it was, a sonogram. The sound that escaped her throat was halfway between disbelief and a gasp. Adrian's fork clattered against his plate. Aaron froze mid-step, color draining from his face. He reached for the frame, his voice thin. You're pregnant?" I placed a hand over my stomach. "Yes," I said softly. "We are." The room splintered. Aaron's smirk cracked into something feral. "You're joking. You're seriously having a baby with him?" "Yes." "With my brother?" I met his eyes. "With my husband." The word landed like a spark in gasoline. "What did you just say?" Lena hissed. "We're married," Micah said simply. 6 weeks ago. Chaos erupted. Aaron's wine glass shattered against the floor. His voice rose, a raw, chinny-trembling roar. "You stole my life!" He pointed at Micah, then at me, shaking. "You, both of you. This was my future, my house, my plan, my—" He couldn't even finish the word baby. I took a step forward, calm as winter. "No one stole anything, Aaron. You handed it over when you decided your comfort mattered more than our promise." He stared at me, eyes wet with rage. "You wanted kids so badly? Fine. Enjoy raising one with a liar." Micah's voice cut through the room like clean steel. "You don't get to call me that." Aaron laughed, bitter and broken. "You think you're better than me?" "No," Micah said. "Just braver." Lena tried to recover control, her tone trembling beneath the frost. "Micah, this is unforgivable. She destroyed your brother's marriage." "She didn't destroy anything," he said. "He did. She just stopped pretending the pieces could fit back together." Aaron's father, Adrian, looked between us, face pale. "Micah, please, don't do this. You're throwing away your family." Micah reached for my hand. "No, I'm building one." That broke something in the room. The grandmother, silent until now, set her teacup down with a faint click. She looked at me, then at Micah, then at the trembling frame in Lena's hand. "Congratulations," she said. The word fell like a gavel. No one else spoke. The air was heavy with the sound of denial breaking. Aaron finally slumped into a chair, muttering under his breath, "This isn't fair. This isn't fair." I looked at him one last time. Fairness isn't something you earn by avoiding responsibility. It's something you forfeit when you lie to the people who trust you. And then I turned to Lena and Adrian. You disowned your son because he chose love. You defended another who weaponized deceit. That's your legacy now. No one followed us as we left. Outside, the snow had started. Micah exhaled, his breath clouding the air. "Are you okay?" "I feel free," I whispered. The drive home was silent, the kind of silence that doesn't need to be filled. When we got home, I went straight to the nursery. Pale yellow walls, a cradle waiting, the art cabinet against the far wall. I knelt down, pressed the hidden latch, and opened the secret compartment. Inside lay the small bundle of my grandmother's carving tools. Smooth handles, old and warm with memory. I smiled, tears catching at the corner of my eyes. "She would have liked you," I told Micah. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, his hand resting over mine, over the soft curve of my stomach. "I think she already does," he murmured. I looked at the tools again. Not relics, but inheritance. The past shaping the present into something new. For years, I'd believed the perfect life had to follow the plan. The right timeline, the right partner, the right house. But sometimes the plan dies so the truth can live. Aaron didn't just lose me. He lost the future he buried under convenience and control. And now he'll have to watch it bloom, one heartbeat, one cry, one morning at a time, from the other side of the fence he built himself. That's not revenge, it's symmetry. And it's a kind of justice I can live with.